It's a cozy evening here at the barn.
Yeah,
It's not winter time.
Can you do a little spin for the people and show them that?
You know,
tell them what are we working with here?
I just felt like one time I wore my baseball pants. I'm pulling out some old gear, and this is probably one of the best things. One teammate, Estrada. You know what'd be awesome? Well, I can't spoil alert, but
okay.
If Estrada, I think it was Estrada.
Marco Estrada, legend.
Marco, dude, best changeup I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. Filthy changeup.
Dude, he was solid. He bought these for the team.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so team player. You know.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't get much better than that.
This is as close as I'm getting in the uniform from here on out. You know. Body percent body fat.
The body fat percentage, yeah.
Yeah, it's all going up, from here. So I might as well cover it up. Nobody wants to see that, right?
Hey, you still fit into the pants, though, so it's like...
I do, bro.
I mean...
I do.
Well...
We just got to change the diet up. A steady diet of, something other than Italian charcuterie and racquetball wine, bro.
I don't know, man. I mean, you can't go wrong with charcuterie.
But that's what people do late in life, right? You drink coffee, you have some water, and you drink some wine, and then you go to bed.
Yeah, you enjoy yourself, right?
It's retired life. I'm trying to re-retire, guy. That's what everybody says. That they retire, then they want to re-retire. I don't get that.
Interesting.
It's that Forrest Gump life.
That's right. You got your hand in everything. Well, speaking of that, episode 52 of Mound Visit, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. A reminder before we start today's show, if you're watching, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. If you like to watch the show, you could see great things like Jason Grilli in a Toronto Blue Jays bathrobe with his name on the back, so it doesn't really get much better than that. And if you like to listen, you could do that on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you could do that as well, and follow us on Instagram at Mound Visit Pod. All right, all that's out of the way. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we used to do this fresh in the morning.
We did.
But now we've changed our scope up. And I like it because we're figuring some stuff up. Sometimes you have day games, sometimes you have night game. I was more of a night game player. I don't know about you.
I'm a night game guy. Yep.
Okay.
Late afternoon night game is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you don't hear the buzzing of the lights and there's no crowd noise and the lights get louder. But I will say this, I just came from a Little League practice, so that's why I took a nice fresh shower, just like game time. We were doing team fundamentals, first and thirds, pickoffs, rundowns.
Fun stuff.
It was interesting, because here's what I wonder. Do coaches now spend more time just doing just the fun stuff? Oh, BP, ground balls, and then we take it to the house. Because I don't know what.
It's interesting. We talked about that last week with TJ when he was asking. He's like, nobody bunts anymore. It starts at the youngest age groups, right? I feel like all that stuff starts there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm far enough removed from that. I mean, when I played in college, it was a lot of the fundamentals were.
Well, like I said, we're on backfield 9 where the sand is like a sandbox, right? And my pants were just covered in dust. It's awesome though, and watching these kids just do their thing and learn, man. It's breaking it down. I didn't realize. Well, the one play that I see all the time is if there's a runner on first and third, the guy on first is always stealing, and they either just let him go or concede. I'm like, heck no, man. We got to put some stuff on and let's control the running game because that's where a lot of anxiety for kids who they have it anyways on the mound. We might as well teach them some stuff, and then they won't be naked out there when they see that happen for the first time. So
yeah,
we made it fun though. It was cool. We made it fun.
That.
And yeah, it was good to put on the old turfs and get some dirt in
get some work in.
My old gear. Yeah, no, I'm just not gonna try to pull a hammy and be in the middle of a rundown. We're built for comfort, baby, not speed. As you can see, I'm rocking the Jays, dude. This is pretty sick. But I'll tell you who I want to talk about. You want to talk about our teams. I like the news stories.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll just say this: the Jays are right in the middle of a tough division. I'll take it right now.
Yeah.
Are we way too soon to be concerned about 2 games out or with all this stuff?
Yeah.
It's way too soon. What I like about it is I think they got to get a couple things in order. But what is in order is great stories like Cam Boozer with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's good enough play. Maybe it is. I just think that's probably the greatest baseball story going. I love this kind of stuff. The guy never quit.
Yeah.
Was a carpenter, right? And hurt his arm, several times, elbow, shoulder, back. I even think he was in a car accident. His back. Was working as a carpenter. Was still throwing cheese. I think he's throwing 96, 97 from the left side.
Woo.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he's like 31. So to see, I saw an interview, just him talking like how appreciative he is of the opportunity, how appreciative is, and he locked into his faith, and how he appreciated his family and all his supporters and friends that were behind him, and he gave so much props to them about doing it, dude. Bro, I want to have him on our show.
Let's do it.
Mound Visit. It's a Mound Visit. We got to get in touch with him and his agent or his wife or whoever that'll get him on our show. I have no connection to him, but I'm gonna find one because that's the most amazing story to me. Interrupt this program to bring you the third knuckleball this evening.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Kind of literally and figuratively, because if you need anyone to catch a knuckleball, it's this guy right here, Josh Thole. Thank you for taking the time. Sorry you had to go through all the technical difficulty. The people watching or listening won't see that, but we had a couple errors on the in the scorebook when it came to our tech. So thank you for bearing with us and joining the show
Well,
today.
thanks for having me on, and pardon my shitty paint job on my ceiling. That's amateur paint. Doesn't look as nice as both of y'all's office. I'm jealous.
Well, listen,
you're not painting the corners yet, yet on that ceiling.
Yeah, listen,
there you go.
Grilled cheese paint at the corners.
That's right, and
there you go.
It's better than painting porcelain right now, and and listen, he's wearing something that represents you. I figured, I'm trying fresh out of Little League practice, had my little guy and coaching them up, and I dug this out of the closet, bro. Remember this? What a team!
I wear mine to this day,
dude. Well, this is as close as we're gonna get into uniform right here. This is as close as we get, right?
We're into the bathrobes at this point.
Yeah, yes, it's beautiful. Yeah,
that's right.
So the best. This is the best uniform I got in there. It hides all the imperfections that we now have.
Well, you should see all my imperfections. I'm about 40 pounds heavier.
Seriously, guy? We got it. Maybe
not that bad, but it's not good.
All right, maybe we should make a challenge, dude. Right? We still have. It's only April 23rd. We should have a 90-day program. Make some type of
P90X.
No, P90X.
Get some.
Is that still around? Who knows?
Yeah, it's still around. I got the CDs at my parents' house.
I think what Tolly and we need to just call Frank Thomas and get on that Nugenics or whatever.
Oh,
now we're talking. I like that plan. Hey, real quick on P90X. My first year in Toronto, Henry Blanco was like 50 years old, still playing, and I have so much respect for Hank. and he was like beating me to the ballpark. He was getting there at like 4 a.m.
What?
And I said, Hank, what are you doing at 4 a.m? He's like, show up at 4 and I'll show you. So the next day I got there at 4, and Hank White and I did P90X. He was doing P90X in the clubby room every day of spring training. It was crazy.
Get out of here.
Loved it, dude. The guy was like 45 or something.
Well, that's probably why he was still doing it, man.
Yeah, no shit, right? That's right. That's
working
right.
up.
I love that. That is awesome. So we kind of touched on it a little bit when we talked about the knuckleball. Obviously, you know, those listening to this show, baseball fans know you're a catcher. You were a catcher. Still are at heart, of course. Can't take that away. But can you talk a little bit, because this is, I think it's fascinating to know that, you know, those who know your career, you specialized almost in catching that knuckleball. Is that fair to say, do you think?
That's fair to say. I do remind guys that in fact was the starting catcher for the New York Mets and then became the knuckleball specialist. But yeah,
that's
you're
right.
Casey.
That's right.
The vast majority of my career was based around the ability to catch a knuckleball.
Yeah, and so
hey, not many guys can, Bo.
This is a
not
very
many
basic
guys
question,
can.
but yeah, exactly. How so? Like you touched on, you were the starting catcher for the New York Mets before anything else, but then you go from that to almost, you know, to specializing on top of being a starting catcher, but also specializing in needing to know how to catch a knuckleball. Can you talk a little bit about what went into that? Because you're dealing with being a starting catcher, but then, I mean, it's a different glove. It's like all of that. Touch on that
I
for
think
us.
this is like I'll take it in two parts, Casey. Part one, when learning how to catch the knuckleball, was, I mean, I called into the office and they said, you're going to go to AAA to start the year, and we just signed this guy who throws a knuckleball. His name's R.A. Dickey. We want you to play as much as possible, but prove that you can catch him. So the only way that I figured I could learn how to catch a knuckleball was by following this guy around all spring training. So I did that. I played catch with him day in and day out. I asked to catch his bullpens every day, every time he got on the mound. And that's kind of like how I really fell into the role. Was I was going to AAA to be the everyday guy, and RA was one of the 5 starters.
Well, you know, let me say this though. I think it gets very underrated or overlooked often. It's just the role of a backup catcher in Major League Baseball. You know, being one of them, how did you feel that, you know, your impact on a team's dynamic, just your preparation and how you stayed game ready? Because to only play really specialized once every 5 days, you're catching that starter, that one guy that has the specialty pitch, and you got to stay game ready, man.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Really that was like kind of the second piece of this, of like, when you're playing every day, you're in such a rhythm, you're in such a routine, you're just, it's like Groundhog's Day. And then you go from that to like playing, and then I was like not really a true backup, right? Like I was like RA's guy, so it was like
you're catching everybody.
When you're playing every day, it's just head down and you're going. When I'm catching a knuckleball, that's like once every 5 days, and then if there's an off day, now it's every 6 days, and then if they shuffle the rotation around, hell, you could go 7 days without playing at times, and it's probably the hardest transition of my career. I will say this: I give it to Brian Schneider and Bobby Nadel. Bobby Nadel was a guy that was my catching coordinator with the Mets as I was coming up through the minor leagues. I have so much respect for Bobby. I'll be honest, like I don't think I get to the big leagues without him. And I leaned on him and Brian Schneider, who was a longtime Major League veteran, and really understand the dynamics of being a backup, more so at the end of his career. And just, I mean, I leaned on those guys to figure out what the hell to do. I mean, it was so hard. It was such a challenge. Do you hit more? Do you hit less? Because like from a defensive standpoint, I could go out to the bullpen, hang out with those guys, get my reps in the bullpen. But when the game speeds up offensively, it was just such a damn challenge for me. And really understanding and knowing how many times do you throw to the bases? how do you stay sharp? I mean, all of these things. I mean, something as stupid as catching pop flies behind home plate. I mean, you have to do you almost have to treat the in between starts like it's spring training again.
Well, bro, I don't think you and I,
Wow.
or probably any of the pitchers, you hung out with us so much. And I'll tell you what, Josh is a good time, great teammate. We had a lot of laughs every night. In the short time I got to know you, we're still friends to this day. But I'll tell you what, man, I've always felt for guys in your role, in your position, because I know even as a reliever, you have to be on that regimen, even if you're not in a situation, if you were a setup guy or a closer or just in a situation to stay ready to get another inning when you're down or the team's in a losing streak. You're just trying to get in there so you can still be accountable for when the bell rings, and you got to be in there, man. And like I said, you're catching a knuckleball where you don't know where the hell that thing's going, and you're like, oh, now I'm game ready. Like, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're never you never feel like you're game ready, right? Like as much as you prepare, it's like it's almost like game one. You just want to catch the first pitch. You want to just make sure that you kind of get the butterflies knocked out. But there's something that I think if there's any guys who are backup catchers right now, some of the best advice I ever got, and I didn't get it right away, which probably hindered me a little bit, but my mentors told me, they said, JT, it doesn't matter if you go 0 for 4 or 4 for 4 when you're playing as a backup catcher, or in my case, a specialty catcher, you're not playing the next day. You're not going to hit yourself in the lineup. And when they told me that, it really gave me the peace of mind of all right, go. I'm not stressed to get hits. Because when I first took this role in, I always had this belief
go get a massage. You're going to get a couple 6-packs.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, you're going to take your time. You're in the big leagues. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, no, there's no enjoying yourself. There's no enjoying yourself.
Well, it's interesting because I think I guess from a human standpoint, I look at that situation and it's almost like you go from, like you said, you were a starter, and then you go from that to sort of being thrust into this technically, yes, backup role, but it's specialized. So there was a reason that they chose you to do that. Why do you think that was, and what do you think made? I know you gave credit to your catching coach, but what do you think ultimately, along with him, allowed you to be able to take on that role and do so successfully?
Well, I mean, catching a knuckleball is mentally draining on yourself, right? Doug Marabelli told me one time, he said, just understand you're going to lead the league in pass balls. And that's hard. That's hard when you're an everyday player, right? That's hard for, I use Russell as a perfect example, right? Russell Martin enjoyed catching RA because he just loved the competition of it. But I think there's a certain point where when you're trying to get your numbers, and next thing you know, you lead the league in pass balls, because I've heard it. I've heard general managers say it doesn't matter. Pass balls are pass balls, buddy. That's just what it is. They're gonna suppress.
Yeah, if you're fighting for a job, yeah.
Yeah, because you led the league in pass balls. Sorry, dude, we don't care that you caught a knuckleballer.
Yeah, there's no leeway there. It's they use that against you, especially like you said in today's modern era of analytics and all this stuff, that they use it for how your payday's coming out next.
Listen, catching a knuckleball is a freaking thankless job, quite frankly. And I think you have to have that mindset of this is not about me. This is I got to dominate. Otherwise we lose the game. That's the bottom line. If you don't, the game, RA's knuckleball was riding on, and my ability to catch it was riding on if the team was going to win or lose that game, because shit can unravel very fast with a knuckleballer. Think about it. A bloop, a walk, 3 wild pitches, and it's 1-0 before you can blink.
Right. So what was your probably, talk about highlights. We caught a no-hitter, and I don't want to focus on anything negative, but speak to the difficulty of you prepared, you did everything right, and just shit hit the fan, the wheels fell off the wagon, and you were I don't know what to do. And you almost have to laugh about it because you're I'm a big leaguer trying by giving my best. It's just not working out today.
Yeah, that's what you do, dude. You go in a mirror and you make fun of yourself. And geez, you know this, dude. Like our teams in Toronto when we were together were incredibly close. Like, I mean, listen, I joke about me joking and laughing, but like you have to like kind of you can't take yourself too serious. Number one, but the support system we had inside the clubhouse and the ability for I'll call them veterans, the guys who pat you on the ass and say like, dude, we're good. Like we saw, we know it was hard. We know the thing was fucking dancing today. That's just what it is, right? So it's like to have that support is important because honestly, Casey, if it's the other way and you have a lot of like, guys who are all about themselves in the room and they start pointing the fingers. We've all been on guys too. We've been on teams like that. Guys start pointing the finger. Well, hell, if Thole could catch the ball, we would have won X amount more games, would have put us in the playoffs. We never had that. We never had that one time with our clubs in Toronto.
That's great. I obviously any team that has, that sort of cohesion is going to ultimately be more successful than not having that. And I think, but that's kind of why I found it so curious, not to go back to your time with the Mets, but you caught R.A. Dickey during that season where he won a Cy Young, and not, it's special for so many reasons. Anytime you are a primary catcher for a pitcher that wins a Cy Young, it's special, but to win a Cy Young as a knuckleballer, I mean, what was that like? And that whole season, because obviously at that point you've probably gotten used to it as much as you can, catching a knuckleball. Like you said, every day is different almost, but to see, that kind of pitch be that successful, take us through that season.
Yeah, it was special. So I would have been with RA at that point for two seasons prior, right? The 2010, 2011. Okay. So I had a pretty good feel of like, I was feeling pretty comfortable with catching it as comfortable as you can get. There was something that changed in that 2012 season about, I don't know, probably a handful of starts in. He had such a great feel for it early on. And then there was a point in time in one of his bullpens, I'll never forget, he said, hey, so how RA threw his bullpens, and I don't think I'm giving any secrets away here, it is what it is, but he would throw, just an hour-long bullpen. You felt like you were damn in a game, which was good for me because I would always catch it. But there was a point where he would face the lineup of the team he was facing next. And the first hitter, he says, hey, I want this knuckleball to go like up and into this hitter who was a lefty. And he rips off the knuckleball and it runs up and in. It would have been up and into a lefty. And then he says, okay, I want this one to go down and away to a lefty. And then like this one's going to be slow. And that was like the pivotal moment for me where I was like, dude, like he has a feel for this. Like I feel like no other.
Yeah, if you're telling, controlling, spotting a knuckleball. Telling, that's crazy to me to even hear that that's what was going on, and and it is.
That's mind blowing. But what's even crazier too is, and I think people forget about this. He threw that knuckleball hard,
super hard the year he won the Cy Young too. Like there was a tick down in velocity, I think, and I'm sure like if there's like stat gurus out there that are watching this, they may prove me wrong, but it just felt in New York this Cy Young year, it definitely felt harder. There's no doubt. In my mind, there was such a pace because it made his changeup so effective. It made, like he had the ability to like throw a changeup off of his hard ass knuckleball. Just like played with it.
He was bunching double digits, with that thing, right?
He was throwing. He would run the knuckleball up anywhere to like 84, 85. It was. Cool. It might have been some 86s in there. I don't exactly remember, but it was coming in hard. But like even so, walking like going backwards a little bit in the bullpen when he was doing that, he developed like this idea of 2 strikes, high hard knuckleball. So like I would actually give the sign for a high hard knuckleball. Now, not always did it do that, but like his repertoire, he was able to like build off of his repertoire throughout the course of the season.
That's so cool. I mean, just to think about, and I think it gets lost a little bit because I think nowadays, I mean, we all watch the game, and everything is just throw harder, throw harder, throw harder, throw harder, and it, that kind of nuance, it's obviously still there to an extent, but like, it seems like it's not. I guess I don't know if that makes sense, but at least to that's kind of what it seems like to me, and I'd be very curious to see both of you what you think. But Josh, when you look at not only how hard guys are throwing, but also the amount of guys that are getting injured all the time, it's very interesting, and I'd love to hear your perspective as a catcher, and maybe if you have any guesses why, or if you see it tapering off.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the COVID year. When it was pretty much a playground for guys to like mess around. And I mean, just this is my opinion only. I just want to be very clear about that.
Sure.
My opinion is that everything is RPM based. How hard am I spinning the ball? How hard am I ripping the ball? And I think like I think that definitely has to have something to do with it. If you throw a breaking ball at let's just, for the sake of numbers, call it 2,600 RPMs, and the pitching gurus now tell you that it needs to be at 2,800 RPMs or 3,000 RPMs, what are you going to do? You're going to crank on it a little bit harder. They used to use like the Pelican grip and like the sticky tack stuff to like help like with like the clicking and spinning to develop the RPMs, but now they don't. Obviously they can't use it. So now I think they're just cranking on it, and I think, geez, you can probably speak from a pitcher's perspective a little bit more, but I witnessed it firsthand during the COVID year. It was a true playground.
Well, I'll tell you where it was always weird. I'm like, why does it even matter? There was vertical and horizontal readings at PNC Park. They kept it like velocity, and then you'd see horizontal and vertical. But I'm like, what are they measuring? Like, what is that significant? When in the grand scheme of it. But you'd see guys like Charlie Morton, who had the best sinker and the best stuff on the team. It wasn't even his best years at Pittsburgh. He just didn't know how to use his stuff. He wound up developing that, and that sinker and his slider. I mean, the guy was, like you said, ripping it, spinning it. So there is something to all of that. What I find the trends in pitching now and the current trends is, throw the ball as hard as you can down the middle. How teams, what concerns me more than ever is that how these teams are managing the workload, because, I hear some of these announcers. I was watching the Red Sox game on one of our episodes, Case, in the background, and they're talking about Dennis Eckersley, how many complete games he had. Or you look at guys like Greg Maddux, who was maybe topping out at 88 in his heyday, and just moving balls. The guy wound up punching 3,000, Hall of Famer punched out 3,000 guys. Striking out 3-4 guys sometimes in a complete game, still managing to put up 3,000 strikeouts. So I don't know. We've gotten so into the power game instead of this finesse game, or that it's not. Listen, Barry Bonds hated facing Greg Maddux. I can promise you that, right? And we're talking about players of yesteryear where I don't know if it's we're making concessions to make players in the game more of an entertainment and elaborate thing. And because I've read articles where Theo Epstein said, I've ruined the game because we don't see bunts, we don't see hit and runs, we don't see, there's all this change in how the game was played or the brand was played. The game of baseball is awesome. It will always be awesome. So I'm never going to hate on the game. But when you keep changing things and you compare eras and players and how things are done, it's fight or flight, man. To stay in the big leagues and get there, right, Thole? You could speak to that too. Is that the trend to stay there or develop into somebody that like hey, I'm worthy to be here. I'm staying in the big leagues, and being a dude that is counted on to do this job. So as a pitcher or as a backup catcher or just as a first baseman or a guy hitting third in the lineup, it's very, very difficult, and I think these guys are trying to put all this in and all this pressure and all this intensity. That's why I wear the robe now, and I love wearing the robe because tell me, right, Thole, you get to sit in your office and you're like, whew, I don't have to.
No 0 for 4s, buddy. No 0 for 4s. Watch everybody else take their 0 for 4s.
Right.
I mean, let me just add, if I can, to that, because there's a part that, like, I mean, a couple things. I think I can say, especially in today's game, 100% more in today's game. It's not easy, but it's easier to get to the big leagues than it is to stay in the big leagues. Listen, I think the bottom line is, I mean, you know this, right? Like, these major league clubs, this is about, like, the bottom line for them. This is money. So if I have a starter who goes 4 innings who is not eligible for the win, when he walks into his first arbitration case and they say, like, well, listen, dude, you only had, you were eligible for 34 wins, but you were 8-8. So, like, sorry. You know why? I think that's like some of the math that these guys are doing.
Yes, because you know what I would interject here, if I may, because when guys get that incentive bonus, and if it meant a game or another RBI, sometimes the manager was not allowed. The managers are like, yeah, go get your money and play into those guys. But to your point, Thole, right? They're not allowing for that maybe because they're like, well, let's bait and switch them. Yeah, they'll sign with us. We'll get them on our roster. We'll put all these incentive bonuses in there that they're not even going to make. Because as a starter, you used to have the six innings or more with 3 runs or less. That was a quality start. Now, you're seeing guys throwing 3 2/3. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I actually think they need to change what a quality start is at this point in the game, to be honest with you, right? Like, because it's just
baseball.
I mean, it's just the game has changed, and I feel the same way, dude. I'll never like shit. I love baseball. Baseball is like my life. This is what I watch baseball. I follow baseball. I enjoy it. I coach my kids. I love the game, but it's just a different brand, and I do think like it should ebb and flow, but 6 innings is like almost unheard of. I mean, I would be anxious. I would be anxious if you guys can run a poll to like how many quality starts happened last year and how many quality starts have happened this year already. Right. Like, if any. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but you understand what I'm saying. Versus the previous
guys going. Yeah, I mean, you don't see guys like, I'm thinking, even just, obviously I watch every Mets game, and it's like it's almost like you're pulling teeth with guys to go more than 6 innings, if that. I mean, a guy like Jose Quintana, for example, who's characteristically a workhorse on the mound, he's struggled even getting through 5 this year, and part of it could be, sure, his stuff's diminishing a little bit as he gets older. That could be part of it, but it's just I'm not sure exactly what it is. You're not seeing guys make it deep into games, and part of that, I think, obviously, is you've got guys that come in and throw super hard. You can't sustain that. I mean, we saw that with another. I'm getting clowned. I keep bringing up Mets, but I think about DeGrom because a guy who pumps 101 for 7 innings. At some point, your body's just like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And I think that's got to be part of it, right?
I mean, I would let Cheese take that because I think you would understand the force that happens. But I mean, your arm. I mean, it's all. And Jason, tell me if this is right or wrong. But I've always heard that it's like the decel, like when you're trying to stop your arm, is really when you blow it out, right? Like, so if your arm is whipping at X miles per hour,
try to stop an 18
ball in hand,
no brakes, 18 wheeler down there. There's traffic up. That's the same thing. I'm trying to throw a ball 95 miles an hour, right? and then you to go, how do I stop that? The force of that.
Decel. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if that's like scientific proof. I've just heard pitchers talk about it. A lot of them will say like, I feel it on my decel when I try to slow my arm down.
Yep. Well, that's why they say do it a lot
Well,
of.
it's the lat. A lot of guys get that lat injury.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and that's the one that slows you down.
Scap work and all that stuff, man. I mean, like you said, there's all this functional movement that you have to do, and I don't know with the injuries or what, with science and medicine being what it is, it seems like either these guys are not able to compete with they're doing these weighted ball programs and stuff like that, which I'm not a big fan of it. I don't understand it because I never did that. I was more of a, hey, I got to throw the baseball and long toss. But I'm not knocking it because maybe that's why these guys are throwing harder.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that I like. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you, Jason, on that stuff. But like the bottom line is, these guys don't take any time off.
Right.
Like they come out of their season and boom, they're down in Charlotte. They're up in Seattle. They're at Driveline. They're at Tread. They're like, I mean, those things are factories, dude. And so they don't ever take time off. Like, rest your arm, go on vacation, dude. Jesus.
Well, listen, why are there so many Latin American guys? They're running the league, right? The highest percentage of demographics that are in the big leagues are Latin American guys. These guys go home and they play in the Caribbean series and stuff. Unless, I don't know, man.
But dude,
how
many
play of
baseball.
Those guys are pitchers or like is it?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Casey. But
No, go ahead.
You bring up a good point, right? Like the pitchers tend to take time off. Like when I played, the hitters were there. Pitchers, they didn't come in until the end. For me, like Jason, you just said it. Like you just picked up a baseball and played long toss. Like I just have to think that like ripping of the arm is there's something to be said of like throwing heavier balls. I don't know anything about it. I don't pretend to know anything about it. I think there's something going on. There's something going on.
It's like golf too, right? There's all these gimmicks and tools and stuff, and there's marketing of making money. I mean, everybody's thinking that what's going to make them better, and people that are trying to get there, or it's like you said, money's a big part of everything, and even for Little League, it's boxing people out of whether they can play Little League or not, or go to Dick's Sporting Goods and buy that tool or that device or that bat or these cleats or this glove. I mean, you go to we go to the ABCA ball or the
conference,
and you go there and you're like, oh my God, and I'm like, I got to get this for my kid, this for my kid. And I'm like, I play Christmas, but truth be told, my kids don't use any of that stuff. They're going out and playing catch.
That's it, dude. I mean, listen, I just came back from my son's game, and he plays middle school baseball, and the kid on the opposing team, who, if I were to price out from the cleats to the batting gloves to the bats to the glove to the sliding mitt, I mean, this kid had $1,000 worth of gear.
He's Willie Mays Hayes at your team, right?
And with all due respect, the kid's a little tight, and they're playing on a big field. But like, I didn't see the kid get the ball out of the infield.
Hey, but he feels good. Dude, he looks good.
Just like the gimmicks and the clowning. Like, let's just fucking go back to playing baseball. Let's slide head first. Your fingers will be fine. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's at every level too, and not to get specific here, but I remember. So my second year of college ball, my sophomore year, all of us pitchers did very specific velocity training, where we would have these like 5-pound medicine balls that we would throw overhead, kind of like there goes the mic, like overhead like this, but you're still doing your pitching motion in a sense, but you're using, there's also this thing, now I'm blanking on the name of it, but it looks like a pitching rubber, but it like clicks back and forth kind of when you go on it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So basically the idea is it helps you get in your load and use your, kind of your hip separation, all of that. It helps you get into your back leg, and it kind of teaches you that muscle memory a little bit. But the issue that I saw with us as pitchers is we were so worried about, because we had a sheet where we had to mark down how hard we were throwing this medicine ball. But it's like there's two things we were worried about. And not a single one of them was where the hell the medicine ball was going. All that we were worried about was how hard we were throwing the medicine ball and if we heard those 2 clicks on the little thing on the mound. And, thankfully, we only played 7 games that season because then it ended up getting cut short for COVID. But, we were 1-6. So it was, and our big problem was we couldn't throw strikes. And I think,
how was your first step out of bed in soreness?
It was a very small sample size, but it's still like I look at that all the time and I think of just like I wish we would have done a little bit more obviously it's hard in the Northeast, because it's snowing, but a little bit more long toss, a little bit more flat grounds, and just working on your control and a little bit less. I think that stuff is good to an extent.
Okay,
but it's just like
Josh, have you seen on some of the stuff, and I die watching some of the stuff, but there's one guy I watch on Instagram and I can't remember the call name.
He does all the
the stuff. Makes fun of hitting drills, catching drills, pitching drills.
Is it Austin Schultz?
Yes,
there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, former Tiger minor league. Dude, this shit's hilarious.
Amazing. And he's running out. He's like, I'm running out of material to come up with stuff. I mean, but you know what? He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Like what we're talking about, like how complicated do some people have to make this? But it becomes gimmicky. Does it translate into effectiveness and, functional movements and things that are going, hey, I have to be functionally strong and functionally flexible in order to. My own son, I've said this a million times on this show, my son grew so fast, he's 6'4", $175, and he's still not flexible. It will come, his front leg bends and he's got some things that are out of whack, but he's still trying to figure out. He's in a men's XL clothing, and I'm like, this young kid at 16 is trying to figure out how to move like a grown ass adult, And there are freaks out there, and you just have to learn how to use your body. And if the first size plays later, and sometimes, guys that like Altuve, right? Nobody wrote him off, and he figured it out. Damn good at it.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Let's get him. Let's get your son into some Pilates, dude.
Pilates.
Let's go. He can come down here, see my wife, get a little Pilates in. He'll be right where he needs to be. I can assure you of that. Any listeners that play baseball, go try out Pilates.
Guy, so you're not only fat, you are flexible. You said you're 40 pounds over and flexible.
Flexible.
Okay. You can't pull flat. Dude, you can't pull fat.
Dude, my spine health is through the roof.
Yeah? I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God. Well, we've talked about, we've talked about some low lights. I would be remiss if I didn't, one of my buddies, I got to show you this because this is a true story. This morning, no joke, one of my friends texts into a group chat that I have, and all we do in this group chat is we talk baseball. This is what he sent in. Let me know if you guys could see this. This was today, 3 p.m.
Very good afternoon. Wait.
Yeah, no joke.
Wait, what is that?
This is your phone.
That's a screenshot from my group chat.
Is this just like ironic? You didn't tell him we were having Tully on the show.
No, I didn't. That was the message that I sent to him after that.
Wait, why did he say that though? He just out of
no idea, just out of the blue.
Magic's still happening, Case. Magic is still happening.
How about that?
Wow, dude.
How awesome is that?
Can you screenshot this call? And say he says thank you. Hope you have a great afternoon as well.
I will. I love that.
You have an underground following, bro. You didn't even know about it.
You are a legend in that group chat because of the Immaculate Grid. You're a great answer on the Immaculate Grid. So
I mean, Grilli.
Both of you guys.
Yeah. But like you're.
Grilli is an Immaculate Grid legend. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got more teams, but he's got a lot more teams, but he's way more famous. So like the percentage is a little bit too high. Yeah, mine. Yeah, for me, they're like, holy shit. You're lucky mine pulls up still.
Oh, listen, man.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to ride on the fumes left I got on my fame, guy. I need to start doing some.
I gave up on that a long time ago.
Yeah. My Twitter following went down after I retired. Became less.
It's going back up slowly but surely. But before we get off, we got to talk about the no-hitter and catching that no-hitter. You talked about catching a Cy Young. Talk to us about that, because that's a whole different beast. I know you talk about how, catching a knuckleball, you got to be on your game, but a no-hitter, that's another
extremes,
story.
Man. Big
Talk
extremes.
to us about that.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, I had no idea that the Mets have never had a no-hitter leading up until June 1st of 2012.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah,
it's insane when you think about. I mean, just the fact that Doc never threw one is mind blowing to me. I mean, and then the list goes on and on. I just use Doc as an example.
Yeah, no, it's
So in the bullpen, I'll start you there. In the bullpen, and Jason knows this. You can be outstanding in the bullpen and come to the bump and get your ass handed to you, and you can be shitty in the bullpen, come out and completely dominate. Right. From what I remember, Johan was not great in the bullpen. There was one pitch that he very rarely used that was really good in the bullpen, and it was like this little slider thing that he had. And I will say that is something that we definitely used that to our advantage. It was something that he had a good feel coming out of the bullpen with, and we took advantage of it. I mean, he always had the Bugs Bunny changeup, and like that was there in his sleep. But obviously his fastball was a tick down from when he was Johan, the Cy Young Award winner, etc. But it was little slider for me was kind of the equalizer the whole night. We were able to use it down and into righties. We were able to use it down and away to lefties. He just had such a great feel. Steal the first pitch strike with it. And we utilized it more than we did in the past in previous starts. So that was something that definitely stood out to me. Obviously the Mike Baxter play, they always say, like, in the no hitters and like perfect games, there's always like one play that saves the day. And when Baxter came walking off with his broken collarbone, that was like a moment where you're like, all right, this shit could be actually real when something like that happens.
Yeah.
I find it, I mean, it deserves more than a hat tip, but these guys who throw perfect games is mind blowing to me. Having a no-hitter and knowing that you have some wiggle room and you don't have to give in 3-1, 3-0. You could throw 3-0 changeups, move to the next guy. Having that flexibility was quite nice, and we utilized it to our advantage, to be honest. One thing I want to say to all the Mets fans who are listening, though, like the 134 was not actually 134. There was a few intentional walks in there. That's when we had to throw the pitches, though, so they were recorded as pitches. So I just want to be clear that I believe that the pitch count was down.
Okay, good to know. That's interesting, because I always wondered about that. And I remember Terry Collins talking about how, he kind of looks back on that and is like, oh, man, maybe I shouldn't have let him go that long. But it's like, it's history,
TC is the man. I'll say this. Terry Collins, I have so much respect for Terry Collins. He wore that. He wore it hard. And then when Johan went down, he wore it even harder. And, like, he cared. He truly did. I mean, the bottom line was this guy cares so much about his players, and he cared about the guys, and he took it personal, and he shouldn't have. I mean, I spent some time, I don't know, a couple Novembers ago. I was down in Port St. Lucie for fantasy camp, and I was at his house, and I went over and visited, and we talked in depth about that.
Oh wow!
And it's just like the bottom line is, like, it is what it is, and I reminded him. I said, dude, we intentionally walked a couple guys, so like I don't. The pitch count is not. He was all wrapped up in it, but I understand, and when you do care for the players as much as he did, you're always gonna have that doubt in your mind. But he did the right thing. I'll say this: Johan was not coming out of that ball game.
Yeah,
he could have fucking been at 250 pitches. He wasn't coming out.
Well, that's what I said. If people are at the gamblers table and you're hitting.
Yeah,
you can sit there and stop. You ain't leaving, man.
You ain't leaving.
And he ain't taking me off the bump. I got a chance for history. You know.
Yeah, he was
That's
going.
awesome.
He was going nowhere. But one thing I'll leave you with here was Johan. Johan was very. He was always clowning. He was always like that guy. Even when he pitched, he was the same guy every single day. And in the 7th inning, he became not the same guy. He sat at the end of his bench, didn't talk to anybody. It was interesting. It was cool to see kind of that like dynamic change a little bit. But one of my favorite teammates.
Awesome.
If he didn't buy you a Rolex or something, maybe he could come over and get a paintbrush and help you paint some more while he was painting that day. You got your guy right behind you. You can touch up your bad paint job there. He said.
If he's listening, I'm still waiting on my Rolex. I don't know if he has my address or if he lost my address.
Oh, let's go, dude.
One of these days, I'll get it.
Take you out for that. Well, speaking of life after baseball and life after whatever. We're just a bunch of washed up guys. Tell everybody the transition is always hard from getting traded to up and down, from the big leagues to the minor leagues, back to the big leagues, all that stuff, moving your family. Tell the fans at home, man, what are you doing now? And what are you doing to enjoy life?
Yeah, dude, I mean, here's the bottom line. This helped organize the minor league baseball players, which was cool, in the labor organizing space. But the bottom line is I have this opportunity to be with my kids and spend time with my, watch them grow up. I mean, that was a big, me not playing in 2021 was for a couple of reasons. One, I was no good anymore. But number two, like there was this like idea of we're in Little League and starting travel baseball and like basketball. You just miss so much of their lives. And now to like be able to be part of it and see it. And I mean, my son should have been an 0 for 4 on the chin tonight. And like, he's going to want to go to the cage tomorrow. And I think like that, dude, that's what I love. Right. So it's like, hey dad, let's go hit after practice. That's what he wants to do. And when dad's running around the Pacific Coast League playing baseball, they know so given some stability to the family and, just being around and, being able to be present, that, Jace, dude, that's what it's about, man.
It is totally. And it was our why. A lot of sacrifice and, kudos again for helping organize the minor leaguers to unionize. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal for guys that weren't getting screwed. I mean, people don't know the poverty levels that guys were making. And I always get mad when people go, look at all this money they're making. I go, just like when you buy stocks in business, if you cost average what guys made in the minor leagues and the sacrifice of 10 years and they're finally making, 7 figures, they make $1 million. You could cost average that down to they were putting in the time and they're making $100,000 a year or less. Depending after taxes, and you're paying your agent, you're paying clubhouse dues, you're paying for apartments on the road. That $1 million turns into about 300 real quick.
Yeah, I mean, really fast. And then you play in Toronto and or New York.
Yeah, buddy.
Dude, I mean, the money. That's the thing is like, it's crazy to think that. I mean, for me personally, like you play almost 6 years in the major leagues, and like. I've been fortunate enough to make some good money, but like at the end of the day, I still got to work.
Yep.
So it's like it's hard. It takes some time. It takes some time to kind of find what's next as you kind of maneuver through life. But like I said, like the biggest part is like really watching these kiddos grow because, I mean, as you know, dude, I've watched your boys grow, dude. They were like little rugrats running around the clubhouse. Now you have like 6'5" high school baseball players. It's crazy.
I know. Jace loved it, man. You guys were so good to him, and he loved just coming in. And if you had a bad game or whatever, he'd be over there shining your shoes and trying to like give you some psychological evaluations. I'm like, hey man, say something for dad because I'm gonna need a couple of those sessions on the furry couch, man.
That's right. That's
right.
Oh,
I love that. Well, this has been awesome, Josh. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think I speak for Grill and saying we can't wait to have you back soon, hopefully.
That's
I love it.
Part 2.
That's it, dude. Hey, and you need to get back to Pittsburgh. It's been a minute since you came here for some vino and some good times, man. We got to get you back out here.
say this: I'll be there for some good times. I haven't drank in over a year, so
Okay.
that was one adjustment that I've had to make.
Yeah, all right.
So
all right.
but I'm coming for a good time, brother.
There
You
we
know
go.
that.
Let's go. Thanks for coming on the
Thanks
show,
for having
dude.
me on. Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having me on, guys.
One of our best knuckleballs right here,
That's
Josh
right.
Thole.
Hey, see you, Josh.
See you, boys.